stocks, bonds, equities, tithing. What does it all mean to me as a Christian? Welcome to a special episode of The Deep End. I am Jody Bowden, Executive Pastor of Next Gen Ministries, and I'm joined in the studio today by Dan Rayberg, who you should all recognize from our part one of our series, A Fool and His Money, along with Lisa Calagio, who, along with her husband and Dan, teach the Financial Peace University here at our church. Now, for this special edition, we asked you guys for questions and answers, and hopefully, through experience, knowledge, and biblical guidance, we will be able to answer those for you today. Now, sit back and get comfortable. It's time for The Deep End. Welcome. Pastor will be back in a couple of weeks. You're stuck with me today, but we ask that next week, don't tune in. We won't be here. Nobody's going to be here. We want you in our church for our first Wednesday. We want you guys to enjoy that, come in, be part of it, except for it's on Tuesdays now. So first Tuesdays, I'm still getting used to that. Are you guys still getting used to that? It threw me off the whole time. He's like, let's call it first Tuesdays, first Wednesdays. Now it's on the second Tuesday of this month. You guys know how it works. We want to see you there. We won't be here. But why don't you guys introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about yourselves and why you're here today.
My name is Lisa Calagio, and I've been a facilitator of Financial Peace University we are going on course number 18. We are in the middle of it right now, and it is amazing. It's amazing to see people learn about money, realize where they're at and where they want to go, and change their lives.
Yeah, my name is Dan Rayberg. So I've been at Water since about 2012, and I took Financial Peace that year. Lisa was my teacher, so the student is now with the master. And, I've been teaching Financial Peace about 5-6 years now. Something I want to be clear about, me and Lisa are not financial advisors at all. We don't pretend to be. We're just a couple of Christians that are passionate because we believe we've heard the truth. And we've seen what the truth can do to people's lives when they take control of their finances. So not giving you investment advice, just going to try to change your behaviors to win with money.
Great. All right. I think we just jump right into it. So as always, if you guys have questions, you can text those in to 508-316-933. We have your questions here in front of us, and we're going to start right where we should when we're talking about money and we're talking about the church, and that's with tithing. So question number one. Should we tithe on our gross or our net income?
Oh boy, the ultimate evangelical Christian question. I think it's a good lead into, listen, a lot of the things we're talking about today are not salvation issues. They're instructions from a Father that loves you. So will non-tithers go to heaven? Yeah, but God wants things to go well with you here. Statistics show that less than 3% of Christians are tithing at all. So what does it even matter? You're probably not doing it anyways. So if we can get you to do one of them, you're probably far ahead of the rest of the field. But honestly, I think it talks about where your heart is at. I continue to pray about it, and I don't know if there necessarily is a right answer. I personally tithe off the gross. That's where God has led my heart. And Dave Ramsey says, if I'm wrong, when I get up to heaven, I want to be on the high side. So that's just how I've always done it. If you're not tithing, I don't think you need to be guilted into it. I think it's something I'd pray about. Allow the Lord to work on your heart because He wants things to go well with you.
I totally agree, Dan. And it is a heart thing. And when you're ready, you will know it. And it's between you and God. We're called to do it. You shouldn't be guilted into it, like Dan said. When you're living according to biblical principles, you will want to do it. Tithe is first fruits. It's off the top. You can't tithe at the end because there's never nothing left. That's just how it works. And that's to your local storehouse, your local church. And sometimes people get confused with tithe and offerings. An offering is above the tithe, and that's freely given. That's off a surplus. And just so we're clear on tithing and offering, because some people they say them synonymously and they wrap them all into one. And I do want to say that we have come across people that give and they're not taking care of their own household. It is so important to be taking care of your own household, or you are worse than an unbeliever. You need to be taking care of your house. You need to make sure you have food, clothing, shelter, your bills are paid, your heat is paid, and stuff like that. The basic principles. You need to take care of that, and then you're.
I would say also the one thing that the tithe does for me is it gives me a clear understanding of ownership, right? Every time you give, it's a chance for the Lord to work on your heart, to remind you, man, this is not mine. There's a bigger purpose here. You're trusting in the 401k of heaven, right? Not the 401k here on earth.
Yeah, the true retirement plan, right?
Right, yeah.
The one that we should all be investing in.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. I've always looked at tithing from the aspect of, we look at that, how the Lord's going to bless us through giving back. So how do you want to be blessed? On your net or your gross? That's why I've always failed over to that gross, just like you said. It's just what I've always felt in my heart. That's what I've always thought, like, this is just where I'm called. But, just like you said, let's give those first fruits, and that's really where it comes from.
Yeah, and God says, in Malachi, to put him to the test. Test him on that. And that's the only time he says that in the Bible. I can only speak of my testimony, is that God has been very, he's been diligent through my tithe. He's been truthful, and I put him to the test, and he's been there. His word does not come up void.
Yeah, but try to show me that person that's out giving God.
Not gonna happen.
We'll maybe have a different conversation then, but that's great. All right, question 2, still on that tithing topic. It says, help. My husband and I are constantly at odds with each other over tithing and spending. He is very frugal, and I spend much more freely. Some of our biggest arguments, though, are over tithing. How do you handle this? Should I just tithe on what I make so we don't argue so much?
I can personally talk on this. When my husband and I started, I was a tither and he wasn't. And we had the discussion, and I told him I am going to start tithing. And he said, what are you doing? And let me grab the Bible and let's talk about this. And we read and read and read, and he says, if we're going to do this, we're doing this together. But at first there was some resistance. And if you are in different playing fields, I'm not sure in this question if the husband is a believer. From the question, it makes me think he is not. So if one of you is a Christian and one of you is not, you will be in different places.
Right.
And so I would start where you're at.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, this part about being a saver and a spender, that is very common. You're not alone there. Naturally in class, we see all the time. One person is a natural saver, one person's a natural spender. Dave says that if you're both alike, then one of you aren't needed. So God is putting you together to work together. As far as the tithe goes, if he's not a Christian, then that's a whole separate entity. If he is a Christian, then it comes down to, it doesn't matter what I think or you think. Let's talk about what God thinks. God, his instruction for a better life here on earth is that tithing is good for your financial. And if it seems weird, how is giving helping my financial fitness or peace? But it does, man.
Yeah.
Generous people just live better lives. They're more joyful. But it comes down to you guys need a plan. To win with money, you need a plan.
Right.
And I don't think from reading the question that there's a game plan there. And when you don't have a game plan, you will be spinning your wheels. People make a plan for retirement, for vacation, you need a game plan for your money every week.
Yeah, and you're really good, Lisa, as well. When people come in and they just kind of they throw it, like, hey, listen, I got a mess and I don't know what to do. Well, then let's take a look. We need to know what is coming out, and let's find out where is it going. You got to have a game plan and decide what is most valuable to you. What do you want your life to look at? And when you set those big goals of, man, why are we trying to clean up our financial future? What would our life look like if we were out of debt and we had no mortgage payment or no student loans and car payments? Those are the type of goals that will get you through these small little, spending and, saving, fighting, what are the goals? Why, if we can clean up our finances now, what can that look like later?
Yeah, and I mean, I have the same thing. I'm not positive where they're coming from, but I would say just start into that slowly, and if it's an issue where your husband's saying like, no, we're not giving any of our money, yeah, I would say feel free to give 10% of your income, tithe from your income, but make it a goal to work towards both of you guys getting on the same page and getting to where you need to be as a couple. That would be my encouragement.
And if he is not going to church or not a believer, then I would say pray.
Yes.
Yes.
Pray. Don't stop praying.
Definitely want to get on that same page.
Yeah. Lift it up to the Lord.
So kind of changing gears here from the tithing into a kind of a spending and saving. We're going to go into this next question, multi-part question that I think we're going to have some fun answering. So, hi, I have a blended family, second marriage with children from a previous marriage. My husband has children from a previous relationship, ages 21 and 20. We constantly have arguments about money when it comes to giving to them. I have two at home. One is in school and works. The other only works. For the most part, they pay all their personal expenses. The oldest pays $200 room and board for the month. He has two daughters that have not made the best life choices. Both dropped out of high school, teenage moms, live with boyfriends that can't provide, and I struggle with my husband giving money all of the time to them for non-essentials. He is adamant that he will help as long as he can for his grandchildren. I think his daughters manipulate him, using his granddaughters as an excuse. It has come to the point where I had to separate our bank accounts so that we do not argue anymore about money. I want to buy a house within the next 2 years, and I feel this is the only way. What are your thoughts on separate bank accounts in marriage?
All right, Jody, deep breath.
That's a lot to unpack right there.
Yeah. So first off, let's say this, when you're dealing with finances in family and children, it's emotional and it's tough.
Yeah.
A lot of us deal with that. Money is just an emotional thing. As far as the separate bank accounts go, when you get up to the altar, he doesn't say, and now you become one-ish or one with two separate bank accounts. You become one biblically, two become one. And biblical finances are the same thing. Really, as we look at this, and Lisa would probably say the same thing, I don't think you necessarily have a money or finance problem. I think you have a marriage problem.
Yeah.
And that's really what it speaks to with all the disarray with finances. The other thing I would say, and this is just me personally, I'm not going to support when I have children, if they're not following the Lord, right, and they're not doing and understanding the purpose of the finances that God has entrusted with them, I'm not going to support non-Christian behavior, and because it's not going to be a blessing to them, it's a burden. We talked about it on stage last week. If your child was addicted to heroin, you're not going to support that because you're not going to feed money into that. It's not a blessing; it's a burden. So that's how I would view it. That listen. If you understand and grasp the potential and the purpose of this money, then yes, I will make it available to you. But I would not be being a good steward to God of his money to entrust it with somebody who is not, fully, using it the correct way.
Yeah, and that word that he uses there in the Greek for flesh is sarka, and that's a broader spectrum. It's really everything that you as a couple need to survive together. It's physical, emotional, it's feelings, it is economics, but it's all those things coming together as one. So I agree, that is the bigger issue. Like, what do we need to fix broader than just the finances?
Right. Yeah, and as a church, I know we have multiple avenues to help people in the church that are hurting. So find a Christian counselor, approach a small group or, the leadership team, an elder here at the church. We want to pray with you. We want to work with you. But it does sound like it's something underlying, not as much finances as it is the actual marriage itself that could use some healing.
It could just be a piece of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not one of those things where you sleep in the same bed and then live two totally different lives. It's a thing we do together from start to finish. And I think that's what we need to do is look to the finish and see how we get together and move forward from there with Christian counseling and moving forward. I
Amen.
Totally agree with that. Our next question. What does the Bible say about saving? Is it a matter of being a good steward of our money, or does Christ tell us not to worry about tomorrow? Does it show a lack of faith?
Yeah, if you want to read the wisdom of the Bible and finances, jump into Proverbs. It is all over the place. God is very intentional and about talking about money because he knows it grabs at the heart. And, there's multiple Proverbs. Proverbs 21:20, the wise store up choice food and oils, but a fool, gulps all that they have. So don't get offended by us. That's God saying, if you spend all that you make, everything comes in, everything goes out. By definition, you're a fool. So other Proverbs, the plans of a diligent lead to profit. A wise man thinks ahead, but a fool doesn't. A wise man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Saving is such an emotional and intentional thing. If you don't make it a priority, you'll never do it. We see that all the time in class. People say, I just can't save, but they never make it a priority. It's not an emotional decision that I'm going to save, I'm going to tithe. And when they do that, they can.
We've seen it in the last 20 years. People just want things instantaneously. They're not even saving. I mean, there used to be a layaway plan where you would pay once you paid enough, you would get the item. Now people just want it, and they walk away with the debt, and they're okay with that. And you shouldn't be okay with that.
Right. Yeah, and to answer the question, does Christ tell us to not worry about tomorrow?
He doesn't tell us to be stupid.
He doesn't tell us to be stupid.
Right.
God's saying don't worry about the uncontrollables in your life that, have trust and faith in him. Finances is a very emotional, intentional thing that you have control of. God has given us that control to use our finances as is. Now, he's going to bring the rain, but you need to put your hand to the plow and work.
Yeah, when you look at the parable of the talents, who was the one that came out on top there? The one that was wise with what was given to him. When you're able to be trustworthy with a little, Christ will give you more and more and show you that you can be trustworthy with more than that. And that's really what it goes to. So not just saving, but just being diligent with your finances as a whole.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Making smart decisions and moving in the direction that Christ wants you to.
I do believe it is our spiritual duty as Christians to manage God's money well, because if we don't, where does it go? It goes to the other side, right? It goes to the people that are not of faith, and they get to build up the world that they want. So I do believe that there's a lot of responsibility in managing God's money well.
Absolutely. Now, the next question we're going to here is one that I think most everybody it's going to resound a little bit with. But before we do that, we're going to take a break for an advertisement, and we will be back right after this.
The Deep End with Tim Hatch is made possible by contributions from listeners and viewers like you. If you would like to partner with us to support this ministry, you can go to thedeepend.tv/partner or on the Cash App with hashtag TheDeepEndTV.
All right, welcome back. Now, this is one that I know is going to resound with a lot of people. It's a big question that, it needs an answer. It is, how can you break a cycle of frivolous spending? Now, I mean, my gut instinct on that one right off the bat is that it's just like any addiction. Spending money, it doesn't manifest itself like other addictions do, but it's an addiction. It's an addiction to watching your money go out and things come in.
Yeah.
And just like with any addiction, it is a conscious effort on your part through prayer, through fasting, through supplication to break that cycle and decide, this is the moment. I'm going to stop now. But it's one of those things, addictions are tough, and trying to break it by yourself is a difficult thing to do. So seek out help, seek biblical help, seek Christian counseling, prayer, fasting. That's how you get there. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I would say, when it comes down to, are you truly sick of your situation, right? You are just so done with everything comes in, everything goes out. You work all week. You have no money to show for it. You deal with the boss. You deal with the commute. You deal with the childcare. All these different things. Are you actually sick enough to make changes to your behavior? If the answer is no, then to be honest with you, probably nothing's going to change.
Right.
If the answer is yes, then you are in a great spot, because the realization we see all the time in financial pieces, when somebody realizes they have been the problem and now they get to become the solution, boom, that you have control over your finances. There's an empowerment that comes to that, and we all have it. It just depends on what is most important to you. Every time you have money in your hand, you get to decide that.
Immediately, what comes to my mind is just grow up. Just stop. Figure out where you're spending, and we all, whether it be Starbucks, whether it be shoes, whether it be clothing, whether it be dining out, everybody, if you look at your debit card or your credit card statements, wherever you're spending your money, identify where you're spending and set some guidelines and set some practical realization numbers that fit into your budget. We're not saying don't live. We're not saying that. What we're saying is make a plan and stick to it. And this is where I say just grow up. Just stop the madness.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard, but that's what Lisa's good at. She's good at just giving you the truth, so that's why I love her. One practical thing that we talk about in class is the envelope system. So areas where it's really tough to control spending, you're saying, man, I just can't get my clothing budget or my grocery budget under control or my gas budget. If you, on purpose, on paper, let's say $400 was your food budget for the month, putting that in an envelope and using cold, hard cash, I promise your shopping habits will change. It's a little different when you got to break that $100 bill at the cash register instead of swiping that card and not feeling the weight of the purchase. So areas where you're saying you're really struggling, Starbucks coffee, heck, if you want to give yourself $20, put that in an envelope, and when that $20 is gone, you have no more Starbucks coffee.
That's
So
it.
That's
it.
That's a really practical way to control the things that you think are, man, I'm not even doing it on purpose. I just don't think, and I just get out of control.
It's a habit.
Yeah, it's a
It's
habit.
more because people go out to eat because it's a habit. We go out every Friday. We go out every Saturday. Oh, we go out now every Sunday. And so you just fall into that habit. Or you go shopping when you're stressed because you're stressed out and you just want to shop. You don't want to be home. You just want to shop.
Right, yeah.
It's just a bad habit that you formed. You need to change it.
Right, yep.
Yeah, something that I've done with my kids, and it helps me to, in my head, kind of quantify things too, is I relate it to them in the terms of the time it takes me. So even if I am using that card, like they're like, Dad, can we get this? And I'm like, no, that's too expensive. They're like, well, it's not too bad. And I'm like, no, what you don't understand is Dad has to work 3 hours to be able to buy that. And then they're kind of like, oh, well, I know you're gone all day and I don't see you and I don't want you gone another 3 hours. So to relate it to like, okay, you want that? Well, how long will it take you to get that money back if you use it right now? And to
I love
understand
that.
like, oh man, hours, I can understand that a lot better than I'm just swiping. Like, oh, I just swiped away 3 hours of my time, gone like that.
Yeah, I love that. We talk about that. That kind of is a good segue. Sometimes your situation, it seems so messy. But if your why is that your kids are watching, and you can educate your children. They don't have to fall in to the same pattern of each generation. It takes one generation to stand up and say, no more. I'm going to make sure that nobody else in my household is uneducated on credit card debt and uneducated on student loans. So you can change, and that's the potential of you making the stand today, is that your kids are watching. And just like that, that's how you build good habits and change a family tree.
Absolutely. Kids are always watching.
Yeah.
They will learn more from your actions than from what you tell them.
They also have memories that we don't have, and they'll bring it back to you months later. How do you remember that? That's great. Question 6. Is it okay to enjoy splurging on non-essentials like nice trips or date nights if we have it in the budget? We always feel guilty that there are so many less fortunate, starving, sick people around the world that we should be helping. I mean, that question is definitely one of those that's coming from a good place.
Yeah, it's the guilt of splurging, and God is a loving God, and He wants great things for you. He wants nice things for you. It's not bad to have nice things. It's not bad to go on vacation, to have a nice car. He doesn't want those things to have you.
Amen. Yeah.
And when we talk about splurging or spending, we always look at things like save, spend, and give. And each is a financial opportunity. And if you're only doing one of the three, then you're missing out. And you need to be saving some money each paycheck. You need to be giving, and you should be spending some.
Yeah, that's a great point. Really, there's 3 things, right? Like she said, we can do with money. You can save it, you can spend it, and you can give it. And a full financial portfolio that has peace and has joy has some of all of those. So if you're doing any one of them, or only 2 of them and not 3 of them, you're not going to live fully fulfilled in your finances. So if you're just saving and you're not giving and you're not spending, what type of life is that? Who wants to hang out with the guy who's got $1 billion in the bank but gives none and spends none?
Right.
You know what I mean? And to the same point, who wants to hang out with the guy that spends 3 times what he makes and lives this Instagram life that's not even real? So God wants you to have nice things, and we want you to have nice things. Like she said, we just don't want those things to have you.
Absolutely. And I like that they led right here with if we have it in the budget. Like, you're already on the right path. You're talking about your budget. Like, is part of that tithing, is part of that giving. Then what's left over is for you to enjoy. I mean, God wants you to enjoy that life. What I would say, because it's happened to me before, is maybe there's a specific blessing that God has for you, and maybe he's waiting for that opportunity. So spend some time in prayer, listening, and seeing if God has something specific for you. I just talked about it this past week where, we were saving money and trying to go through our second adoption, and we felt God tell us, you need to give some money to an organization. We did that for the cleft lip repair, and then our daughter came back with that same repaired surgery that somebody else had given into. So maybe, I'm not saying that God has, in the cards for you to adopt. Maybe he does. That would be great. I can talk to you about that. But there could be a specific blessing out there that God wants you to have. So spend some time praying about it and seeing what that is. But definitely don't feel bad spending your budgeted money on you and date nights and on living life.
Yeah, that's the best part about a budget. If you tell your budget, you have a $200 for your date night, you don't have to go feel guilty when you go on date night. That was in the budget, and you're still doing your 401k. You're still paying off your debt or saving or doing whatever. That was a budgeted item. So it gives you control, and you can just kind of take a deep breath, man. We're on the right path. We're doing everything we want to do, and we budgeted for our date night, and we can just enjoy it.
Yeah, talking about enjoying things and saving, that's one thing that the story you told about saving up for the wedding, that really, hit me hard because I realized to see a guy young and realize I need to speak into my own future, that's just fantastic. That was a great story.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was, that's 8 years of prayer.
Yeah.
My mom's 28 years. So, it talks about you don't want to let things, with money, we want to use wisdom, So we want to make sure that we all have major purchases coming up, whether it's a car, college, a house, whatever. We don't want to let those things just drop on our lap, So that we're not just budgeting so that we can pay less for our cable bill, right? We're budgeting so that we can use wisdom with God's money and win with finances. And that just talks about, it's a long-term view. And you delay your short-term pleasures to win with money because the tortoise wins, not the hare.
Yeah,
And on that, I do want to emphasize, it is important to have date night with your spouse. It is important to have appointments and do things with your kids. They don't all have to cost money. There's the library is a great tool. They have passes. There's state parks. There's so many things you can do for free. And most of the time, at the end of the day, people just want time.
Yeah.
If you're a married couple, spend time together. If you have time with your kids, grab a ball and just go shoot hoop. It's time. That's what most people want with other people. It's not stuff.
Yeah, a lot of times just a Netflix and hang out with some friends at the house and make a pizza is much better than no one wants to go spend $250 on all this stuff, So you can still be in the world and enjoying this life without crushing your financial dreams in the process.
Absolutely. And when you talk about being wise, it's the reason Solomon asked for wisdom, because with it comes all of these other things. It comes the success and the willingness and the being able to save your money comes with all that, because once you know how to do those things, it all perpetuates on top of each other. That's why that wisdom's key. I'm glad you said that multiple times, because it really is key to it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Making those smart decisions.
Yes.
Now we switch to a kind of a worldview, some questions that we need to get some different perspective on and speak really what does the Bible say about these things? In the 2000s, Oprah made the book The Secret wildly popular, teaching that we can attract wealth into our lives through the law of attraction. The book claims that this practice is based on Matthew 21:22, ask, believe, and receive. Is it sinful for a Christian to engage in the law of attraction teachings?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I'm not a big Oprah follower. I don't sit down and watch Oprah. My mom likes Dr. Phil. But to be honest, listen, in Corinthians, they talk about, bad company corrupts good character. So from a Christian perspective, I would say maybe from the other end of the spectrum, hanging out with good company, people that are wise financially, that are invested in their future, that want good things for you, that don't live on debt and try to live up to this Instagram persona, that probably will want you to exceed more and go after more. So if that's the law of attraction, great. My initial reaction when I hear that is, man, winning with money is about action. You got to put your hand to the plow, and you got to do it, and you got to work. God said to tend the fields. He'll bring the rain. You can't just wish good things into your life. I mean, there's prayer, but God's not going to just fix your problems, right? God wants to fix your heart. So the law of attraction. I mean, I don't know. Hang out with good people and good things happen. Is that what that means?
I think that's what they're going for there. But I mean, yes, there is a lot to say about speaking things into and asking specifically for things.
Sure.
But the problem is when we see in Isaiah, our thoughts aren't his thoughts, our ways aren't his ways. You'll know them by their fruits. Are you asking for things that will exemplify the fruits of the Spirit in other, people will be able to see that through what you're asking? I mean, I don't think God's out dealing in Ferraris, but that's the big concern there. Is what are you asking for? If you're giving, saying, if you follow this law, all you do is ask and it's going to be giving there. It's not a genie, but if you're asking for things that are fruitful and will be fruitful for the kingdom, then God's going to provide a way for those things. Not those things. It's not just going to show up, but he'll provide you a way to provide those things for yourself and for others and to be able to be a blessing on people.
Yeah, you need to work your butt off and you need to pray and let God handle the uncontrollables. But you got to work, man. A goal without, a wish without a plan is, or a wish without a plan without a goal is a wish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't just wish these things to happen. You got to have a plan, a written game plan of how am I going to win this month, this week, this year. How are you going to win in all areas of your life? Not just finance, but God tells us, put your hand to the plow and work. There's so many people out here that are waiting for God to drop finances in their lap or jobs into their lap. You got to go out and get it and pray and let the prayer do the rest, but you got to work.
Shut the TV off.
Yeah.
Working in the natural and in the now is a necessity, but what are we really trying to store up for? What are we waiting for? What are we really investing in? That, just like you said when we started, that eternal 401k, that's where we should be focusing. So what are you asking for?
Yeah, and a lot of times, God's not going to give you something you can't handle. So sometimes the answer is no from God because you can't handle it.
And sometimes his answer is not anything of what you thought it was going to be. It may not be that job because that job's going to require you to be gone 80 hours a week. Right. And, you think that's what you want, but God shuts that door.
Yeah, and just again, talking about being trustworthy with a little bit, show that you're trustworthy with a little before God's going to just open the floodgates for you.
Right, yeah.
With that expectation. All right, question 8. Should a Christian avoid starting a business and being a business partner with a non-Christian? A non-Christian family member often brings up starting a business with me, but I hesitate because I know that he would never view finances or leadership through the lens of Christ. Am I being narrow-minded?
Oh, well, it sounds like the guy already knows his answer, but he wants to ask the question, right? From what we see going into, and this is just not from a Christian perspective, but in the world, going into business with a family member or a friend is a great way to destroy that relationship.
Yep.
Heck, if it does work out like that, then fine. But I think you need to have a couple overarching things. What is our why? What's the vision of your company? Is it going to get to the point where your goals and your visions aren't the same? Or do you want to be a generous company that is investing in the local community and the local surroundings, and his plan is just to get rich and live on a yacht? So do you actually have an answer to a problem? Do you have something that the market wants and needs? That's just the beginning of it. Do you have a game plan to win from there? And then if that does work out, how does the long-term vision of the company match up with each other? Because if it doesn't, eventually you're going to get to that problem, I would believe.
Yeah, and I just want to add in, I got Tony's comments on this one.
Yeah.
My husband's in Elder here at Waters, and he has a small business. So I wanted to get his input on this, so I'm going to read this. He says, starting a business with someone is a big deal. First things first, do you have a plan? Proverbs 21:5. The plan of the diligent leads surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. Just because you have a good idea doesn't mean you should do it. You must fill a need, provide value, promote it, and manage all aspects, the people, the process, and especially the money. As the question is posed, I sense some hesitation. If the plan cannot be put in writing with both in agreement on all the details, then don't go any further. Hope for the best, but plan for the worst. Don't go into debt on it. Don't bet the farm. Do know the market and the competition. And if you're a business person, then you'll understand the SWOT, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Two people being followers of Christ does not mean that there will not be disagreements. Get a clear business plan and a financial plan in writing before starting a business to reduce chances of misunderstandings. And also the SBA, the Small Business Administration, SBA.gov is a great source.
Some great wisdom from Tony, a wise man that has seen God bless him through his faithfulness. I think that either way, starting a business with a non-Christian or a Christian doesn't mean it's going to be successful or unsuccessful.
Right.
You know, you can go into business with a Christian, and if it's a bad business, it's going to fail. You know, so there's a lot of things that go into it. I would just be tending to be skeptical or looking at why would going into business with family or a friend on something you don't want to do. It sounds like the guy already has his answer.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And that's the first thing I thought of was exactly what Tony said. Like, if this is something you want to move forward on, you decide, like, I do want to go down that path, you need to have specific things in writing with an expectation up front that you don't waver on. You know, don't have concessions because he's a non-believer. If your beliefs are strong enough that I want to financially and through leadership this to be a Christian-based business, have that firm in writing. And if you can't sign off on that, that's it. That's your answer. Yeah. So, but cautiously, I agree. Yeah. Question 9. Are student loans considered non-biblical in the sense that we go into debt for them?
Well, I think, you know, once again, we're not talking, most things we're talking about today are not salvation issues. You know, just because you have student loan debt or credit card debt doesn't mean that you won't go to heaven. God has given us instruction that he knows the handcuffing nature of debt. You know, the borrower is slave to the lender. What a great illustration that is, an image of the handcuffing nature of debt. We see people come in all the time in class, and they're just so handcuffed. They can't get out of it because debt is just strangling them.
They're in the storm.
Yeah, they're in the storm because they have payments all over the place. So I'm not against university. I don't think any of us are against education.
No, we're all for education.
We're all
Absolutely.
for education. We're against the education having you.
Yes.
You know, so this lie that the universities have sold you that you need to be in 6 figures of debt to graduate college and be successful is not true. Just basically not true. We talked about some avenues, you know, community college and in-state tuition and practical things to do working through college.
Yes.
You know, studies.
Nothing wrong with the job.
Yeah, studies show that you know, students that work 20 hours a week, 20 to 25 hours a week, have better grades than ones that don't. So
They learn structure.
Yeah.
They learn responsibility. Plus, they are, you know, learning along the way.
Yeah, there's no need. When we talked about this on stage, no one cares where you went to school, man.
Right.
They really don't. You know, so you don't need to go to that school, which is $70,000 a year to get a job. That's just not true. You know, so don't feel like that. The pressure of society is that you've got to go into student debt to get an education. That's not true.
And also, not everybody's ready for college. A lot of people, I talk to so many people, and their children are in college. What do they major in? What are they studying? Oh, they haven't declared it yet. They have no idea what they want to do.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big fallacies that people are still battling through is that that's just the next natural step. You graduate high school and you just go to college. No plan, no future that I know I want to do this, but I just go because that's what I'm supposed to do. And then you start compounding that debt because you're going to a place that you don't know why you're there. You don't know how long you're going to be there. But there's definitely ways to go through school and come out of it with little to no debt on the end because you've made the right decisions. You've gone night classes or you've taken 1 or 2 classes at a time, or just like you said, going to that community college for your gen ed to save that money, then decide, now I have a plan for my life. This is where I want to go. You know, if you're a doctor, yeah, you have to go to school. You can't become a doctor by practicing on the side. But there are still ways that you can do it and not cripple yourself in debt by doing so.
And also, I would recommend if there is a area that you wish to explore, mentor with someone. Look for a mentor. Look for somebody in that field. Ask them, can I follow you around? Can I ask you questions? Buy them a cup of coffee and talk to them about their experience. You may think that this is what you want to do, but after a conversation, you may find out that you don't really want to do those hours, or you don't want to travel, or you thought it was something totally different than what it really is.
Yeah, you need to have a very clear view of what college is. It's an investment in your future. So if at the end of this investment you come out with $200,000 in debt and a hand drumming degree, that wasn't a good investment.
Yes.
Because there's not a market for that. So you want to go to get a degree, something that you feel passionate about, that God's leading you towards, and that has an actual market and need in the marketplace. All the time I hear people with these crazy degrees, and it's everyone else's fault that they can't get a job. And it's like, well, did you use any wisdom? Did you see what are people making? What are the people using that degree for? Do you actually need a master's after that as well, or is that degree useful in the marketplace? So
I think most people are lazy and they don't do their homework.
yeah, you just you go and you get a
That sounds good.
I'll just go to college and I'll figure it out there and I'll get a job.
And party for 4 more years.
Yeah, it's not true, and it will strangle your future. It will hold you back from the things that God wants for you, which is what we're seeing a lot in this generation. Just the student loan epidemic.
Through the roof. I was with somebody last week, and she had $120,000 worth of debt. He had 110. She wasn't paying it, so she took 2 years off paying it, and it's now 170. Wow. And they just bought a house, 400,000 on top of it, and they got a baby.
Unfortunately, that is not abnormal in our society right now.
Yeah.
Because
and they're just starting.
Yeah, so don't use some wisdom. If you know a kid that's in high school or college, try to get them educated. It's I cannot believe we're not talking about any financial aptitude in basics. Yeah, in high school. So you just got to be careful with that stuff because it will.
My wife specifically, going to college, it's where we met, and I remember being just totally enamored by watching her pay her debt as she went through college. So she actually had a job.
What do you mean? You can do that?
Yeah, right. You can work while you're in college.
No way.
How am I going to have time to hang out and party and do all this other stuff? She did. She forewent doing all of those things, and she had a job. She worked her way through, and when she got out of college, she had hardly any debt because she had paid it off along the way to keep her interest rates from going up and having to pay twice what she should. And I remember looking, and that just being, speaking into my life, being like, how are you doing that, working through college? And she graduated a semester early on top of that with a double major because she was being faithful to God through all the decisions she made. It definitely pays off. You talked about it earlier. How is tithing beneficial to your finances? When you're diligent and you do what God wants for your life, you will see benefits beyond what other people can understand.
Yeah, and then the other thing too is they still have tuition reimbursement. There are employers that will, you can go get a job and go nights and weekends. If the degree is so important to you, find a way so at the end of the day and when you graduate, you don't have this huge college debt.
Yeah, big monkey on your back. Yeah. Absolutely. All right, so now we're going to move into some questions that I am going to take a backseat to and let you guys do the talking. Question 10. Hi, Pastor Tim and the Deep End team. I invest in the stock market with mutual funds as part of my retirement plan. Just this week, the stock market plunged lower than it has in years. The news says that many areas of the financial market will be affected for at least a few months, and we haven't seen how widespread this virus will be. I am worried about my accounts and don't know if I should stop putting money in them right now or invest in something else like treasury bonds. As a Christian, I want to be a good steward of what God has blessed me with.
Well, there's one word that steps out to me there: news. Turn off the news.
Shut it off.
They want to tell you about everything that's bad. And let me tell you about, with investing, the people on a long term, a 20, 30, 40-year investing period that you're doing for your retirement, the only people that get hurt on the roller coaster are the people that jump off. Yep. The people that jumped off in 2008 because they freaked out had they have just stayed on, the market almost fully rebounded the next year it came back.
Yes.
Over a 5,
And they didn't lose everything.
Yeah.
They lost 50, I think it went down to 50%.
right. But then,
But it recouped and it went back up.
the news didn't want to tell you. The media didn't
No,
want
they
to tell you
never
that it
told
came
you that.
back
You
up.
couldn't find that article anywhere.
Right. So, when you're looking at investing, you need to look at a long-term game plan. Yes, if you need that money in a year or two,
If you're retiring.
if you're retiring, then,
And you still don't need the whole thing, though. If
Right.
you're retiring, you're only taking out a little bit.
right, yeah.
So it's not like you need the whole thing.
Yeah, there's been little to maybe none 5-year increments of the market where it's actually lost money. And to be truthful, as weird as it sounds, when the market drops and you're investing in your 401k, you need to view it as buying on discount, right? You're buying stocks and mutual funds that are on a discounted rate so that it sounds weird, but you're stocking up so that when they do bounce back, you're that much more ahead of the curve, So when the market drops, that's a buying opportunity because it's going to come back. I'm not going anywhere. You're just riding this thing out over a 20, 30, 40-year investing period. The stock market, the S&P 500 has averaged 10+%. It's actually not that risky of an investment when you look at it on a broad scale. It's the people that, they're like
panicking.
They're hares.
They're panicking and
they jump around.
So, personal opinion, still buying.
Yeah. Just hang in there. Once again, I'm not an advisor.
No,
I don't
no.
I don't.
We're just giving you our personal opinion.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, question 11. Should I get out of the 401ks I have invested in equities, or should I buy equities if I have cash?
Yeah, so single stock investments can be risky. I want you to picture like this: if all your money was in Facebook, and Facebook plummets,
Look at Enron.
yeah, your
Enron,
money plummets.
yep.
So what we talk about, a good financial portfolio has diversification, and one way to do that is through what's called mutual funds. In picture a mutual fund, the most famous one is the S&P 500. So it's 500 of the largest stocks in America in one fund. So yeah, Facebook might have went down, but Amazon went up, and Apple went up, and
So overall.
yeah, Google might have went down, but as a whole, the mutual fund isn't as risky because it's an average of all 500. So those are really where you should be investing for long-term, slow and steady wins the race type investing.
Versus a single stock.
Yeah, they're not the most flashy. They're not the ones that you read that your buddy tells you that he picked out this winning stock and it quadrupled.
You got that phone call. Buy now.
Buy now, yeah.
Time's running out.
Buy the Bitcoin. They don't tell you on the ones that lose. He just gives you the one that win. But really, with investing, they talk about in class that's called the KISS. Keep it simple, stupid, right? It's about slow and steady, diligence, consistently investing over time. That's how you build wealth.
All right, and now we're ending with a legacy. This is a great question. Do you feel that leaving an inheritance to the church or a missionary organization is a good part of your will or end-of-life planning? How can you make sure it will be used as you designated it to be?
I would have to start and say if God's put that on your heart, then yes. And we're not saying do this blindly, whether it be to your church, to a church, to a organization. Do your research, do your due diligence, find out where their money's going. And if it's an organization that you support, do your research, find out where the money's going, what's going, what are they supporting, what are they involved in, and get more interested and educated on what they're doing.
Yeah, that's the power of wealth, right?
Yeah.
It can be so exponential that you can pick different buckets to put it in. And that's why it's so important to get your stuff cleaned up now, because when you do pass away, you want to leave an inheritance and you want to change your family tree and use other things that God has opened your eyes to bless other people. As far as, deciding where the church goes, if I was leaving a large inheritance, I would want to talk to leadership and see, what areas of the church are holding back the gospel moving forward? Where can we help, and how can we make sure we get those things funded? There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to go blindly. It's called wisdom, right? God wants us to use wisdom with his money. You never invest in something you don't understand, ever. You always make sure you understand it's your money, and you never give to something that you don't feel God leading you to, and that you don't understand especially with a large amount like that. We're not just going to give to some, TV pastor that we don't even know where the money's going, right?
We're called to be good stewards.
Good stewards, correct? That's the word.
And we have to be. When God entrusts us, then the next step is ours. What are you doing with your money? What are you doing, when you do perish, when you do pass? Where is your money going? And it's so important to do your research.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, giving to the kingdom is always a good thing. Nobody's ever going to tell you that investing in the eternal is a bad thing. But make sure that you can trust and rely on the resources. Like if I want to give my money to this place, just know that that's a place you trust, and denote your money for something. Just like you said, talk to leadership and say, this is the specific place I want my money to go. Write that in. I mean, those wills are contracts. They're binding. So if you say, this is the specific place, that's where they have to use it. So that's...
Yeah, use prayer. I believe, God will show you where those finances are best put. They're his anyways. He'll show you where he wants them.
Yeah, and it's part of end-of-life planning, and we are called to take care of our household, and end-of-life planning is part of it.
Absolutely. Now, I hope that as we wrap up here, you guys have been adequately, had your questions answered. I hope that you've been blessed by what we've had. But good news, if you haven't had your questions answered and you have more, or this has spurred in you an interest to change your finances, change the way you think about money, we have an opportunity to sign up for Financial Peace University for a second session. That's exciting news.
Yeah, can't wait. We're finishing up a semester now, which will be ending right at the beginning of April, and we're going to try to time it up. So just as Pastor Tim finishes up this money series, we're going to give you guys, all the, push you need to say
all the tools.
Yeah, all the tools you want. That if it's time for you to take action, and I'm saying it is. This is your time. We're going to be plugging in. I think it's going to be April 19th.
That's correct, April 19th.
It'll be Sunday morning, so we'll kind of get you guys in there before you get off to the beach or whatever. If we run into the summer, it'll be 9 straight weeks. We have childcare.
We're gonna go. We're gonna do it over 10 because we're gonna take Memorial Day weekend off.
Awesome. But this is your chance. If God has put it on your heart that, man, 2020 is the year that I want to take control of what God has blessed me with and be intentional and emotional with it, this is your chance.
And just to explain what Financial Peace University is, it's a 9-week class, and it's your numbers. We don't look at your numbers as facilitators. We're there to come alongside, pray with you, encourage you, help you. You got to do your homework. It's all your numbers. You will get out of it what you put into it. Mm-hmm. But each lesson is individual, and you will learn great stuff each week. So we encourage you to sign up.
Yes, we'll be praying over that. Don't miss any of the series that Pastor Tim has going on right now, and let's translate this into a great 2020.
Absolutely. So that is, just so you have the details, it's going to be April 19th through June 21st, and it's going to be 9:15 to 10:45 on those Sundays. We will have childcare. Bring them right into the Waters Kids area. We'll take care of them so that you guys can just relax, get your minds right, and enjoy that class and get out of it what you're going to put into it. Yep. I thank you both so much for being here. I thank you for your input and for your willingness to be here and share your experiences and your knowledge from a biblically sound place. It really is something the world needs, and I appreciate you both for that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Now make sure you guys go to our YouTube page and subscribe so that more people can get in touch with us. Go to youtube.com/thedeependtv and subscribe. Tim will be back in 2 weeks. He wants you here next week for First Tuesday. Come and be part of that, and then join us back on the Deep End 2 weeks from now on St. Patrick's Day, where Pastor Tim will be back and will continue his study in Acts. Thank you guys so much. That's the Deep End.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of The Deep End. We pray it helps you grow in your faith and your walk with Christ. If you don't already have a home church, we invite you to come out to one of our campuses this weekend. Check us out at waterschurch.org to find a location near you and a service time that fits your schedule. Make sure to stay tuned for next week's episode of The Deep End with Tim Hatch.